Hey everybody, welcome back to the Lion Turtle Podcast. I'm Sal.
And I'm Christy.
And here we like to talk about travel. Before we jump into the episode, thanks again to everybody who's been listening, everybody who's been clicking like and subscribe on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and if you're watching this on YouTube, so those of you who don't know, these episodes are also posted on YouTube, so you can see my beautiful face, as well as my wife's extremely beautiful face.
When I comb my hair.
But you can find us also on YouTube. The channel's Where's Christy? And I think we might be changing the channel soon, right?
Maybe. I'm considering letting Sal be part of the Where is Christy YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's what that is.
Well, we're a team. Everybody knows that, we travel together because, we're married. And, we like to travel together. So I feel like it just makes sense to kind of bring it all together.
Maybe you call it something like Where is Sal and Christy?
No. Christy plus Sal. Or Where is Christy and, hey, where's that guy Sal?
Or Sal and Friends.
Sal and Friends? What? That's messed up.
Until then, you can find everything on YouTube at Where is Christy. So if you haven't, check out the channel. It's not just the podcasts that are on there, but also travel
vlogs.
Yeah. So since the time we went to Tokyo, and then even this most latest vlog was a day we went to North Shore. Was it in Hawaii?
Yeah, just everywhere we've been up until now, really.
Yeah, so
it's all. I'm getting better. I'm getting caught up. So. Where is Christy is where you could find these podcasts and other travel videos on YouTube. When we update the name, we'll let you know. If you guys have any suggestions for names, yeah, definitely let us know. I would like ideas because honestly, I don't know. I don't know if it's a good idea, one, to change it, or, what would be a good name? Because you heard his ideas. Come on.
Yeah, my vote is Sal and Christy Rule the World. That's my vote, and I think it's an amazing name.
No, my name's gonna go first because it was my channel first. But anyway, we digress and we get off topic. Well, let's get into the show.
Let's just jump into it. So what are we talking about today?
Today's episode is gonna be about, are you an itinerary person or not? The pros and cons of having an itinerary or just going with no plan, going with the flow. Because there's pros and cons to both, and we've had experiences with both. So we just want to share what we think and what we've experienced with each of these ways of travel. And, I'm just going to start with, at first, and even now, I'm more of an itinerary person because I like doing research. I enjoy just going through all of Google, going through all of YouTube, and just really finding out what's going on in a place, what are the good places to see, where to eat, and I just enjoy it. And then, of course, so I'm going to make a plan. And then on top of that, when we first did our first trip to Japan, I felt like that was it. Like, that was the one and only time we were ever going to do such a big trip like that internationally. Japan, that just felt like another world, and I thought, I'm never doing this again. So at
the time that was a very reasonable mindset.
Yeah. I just thought I have to see as much as I can, make the most I can out of this trip. So I made a crazy itinerary because I just felt like I was never going back.
I think I kind of started from the exact opposite of that, where I was happy if we went somewhere, fly by the seat of our pants, we'll just show up and see what happens. But I think for me, it was kind of maybe romanticized a little bit by watching movies and stuff, things like The Hangover and
Lost
stuff.
In translation.
Lost in translation. These guys go and they show up to these places and all kinds of exciting things happen to them. Not really realizing that in the real world, you kind of got to go out and look for your adventure sometimes. So I've started to realize that, some planning is better than absolutely no planning in most instances, but as we get through the episode, you'll kind of see it's not necessarily always the case. So a lot of this will be prefaced with, it depends. So that's where we're at with that.
And of course, with the points, us now, earning miles and points has changed that a lot too. From that, again, we say it every time, but from that first trip to Japan, that changed a lot for us because it opened up this whole new world of travel that we thought wasn't possible.
Yeah.
Because we thought we can't afford this every year. We can't afford this every couple years, something like this. So I mean, now with the ability to travel for cheap or almost free sometimes, we feel like, yeah, another trip is possible. So now we don't feel that pressure or,
Try and get everything in one day or in
right.
1 week or something. Yeah, like it's a big stress reliever on the trip
Yeah,
itself,
so
so you can
now,
actually enjoy it.
yeah, we know that we don't have to like plan everything out. But with that being said,
So what's the first pro?
Let's get into it,
let's
right?
get into
Okay,
what's
okay.
the first pro?
So for me, the first pro is basically just knowing what you're gonna do. So you get there, you land, and you know what's gonna happen. You feel like you're prepared, you're organized, and you just not you don't feel lost.
Yeah, I would say though, like with that, if you're kind of a newbie planner or a newbie, like as far as like making itineraries for like a week long or something, you could potentially make the mistake of scheduling things too back to back. So like, wow, just got off a 16-hour plane flight and now we're gonna drop off our bags at the hotel and hit the ground running. And it's like, not really. I mean, you might be a little jet lagged. So yes, it's good to show up and you're gonna have a plan, you know what you're doing, but sometimes like you gotta realize like you're only human, you know?
Right.
But
and I mean, with having the plan, it's like if you plan ahead of time what you're gonna do, maybe you need certain tickets, like a museum or a special event. And yeah, you're going to need the tickets beforehand before you get there, because certain places, if they're very popular, maybe they sell out, or you're going to have to end up going at a very crowded, busy time.
yeah.
Or not an ideal time.
Yeah, like that works out. Like if you're planning ahead, like you don't feel lost and you don't really have to spend time researching, right? Like you're in the hotel room, you're on your phone in the hotel room trying to figure out what you're going to do. And then you could potentially be like, oh man, like if only we had known, we could have made it to this area to buy like tickets. And that happened to us like in Japan actually one time. So, well, Christy planned ahead. So she knew that there was going to be like a David Bowie exhibit. And what was the thing with that? We had to get there super early to get the
So
tickets.
you couldn't buy tickets online.
Yeah, that's what
outside.
it was.
I believe it. If you were outside of Japan, you couldn't buy the tickets online. You had to buy tickets there, and they had like certain places where you could buy them or kiosks, or you had to go there and buy them. But I mean, this was such a popular exhibit that a lot of the days already were sold out.
Yeah, so we got there like super early in the morning. Like we beelined straight from the
Yeah.
hotel there, but that's because we had planned ahead and we got the tickets. And it was actually one of the cooler experiences I've ever had. Like I enjoy going to museums when we travel, like
Yeah.
in museums and exhibits. I don't know why, because I don't even go to the ones here in town.
I know.
But when we travel, I enjoy doing that stuff, and it was really really cool.
That was
like,
really cool.
yeah, that was probably one of the highlights of that trip was the David Bowie Museum. But it's really cool, you know, you don't have to spend time wasting time in the hotel room researching and stuff like that. You kind of already know what's going to happen. So that's definitely a pro of your itinerary. Just make sure that you keep in mind you're human and you may have to sleep when you get wherever it is that you're going.
All right, and just don't feel disappointed, you know, like if you get there and you're tired and now your whole plan has to shift a couple hours or a whole day over.
Yeah. But I mean, it's not like the end all be all, like, because
Right.
sometimes you can see like random stuff, right?
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, yeah, with that, an itinerary, maybe with everything being so planned out to the minute by the day, you might limit yourself to having those random experiences, you know, and really making your trip an adventure. I mean, it's going to be an adventure, but I mean, it could be just like a wild story all in itself, you know, because, you know, you just went and you let things happen.
Yeah, like a good same story. We had a beeline straight to the David Bowie Museum, and we just went there. We got the tickets, and now we were kind of like, but it was super early, and nothing opened like early in Japan that day, and so we were just standing there, and we're like, well, what do we do now? And I'm like, well, maybe we can just kind of meander about, and we happened upon like this outdoor festival. You remember?
It was a cherry blossom festival.
Yeah, it was a cherry blossom festival, and they had like all these food stands, and it was really cool. Like,
and
we
that
didn't
was
even know
one
that
of the
was
things
there. Yeah.
well, right, and that was more of a local thing.
Yeah.
So it's not something that I could have planned for. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, just some things are not on the internet.
Yeah.
You know, if it's a local little festival, they don't have a I know, right?
weird.
Crazy. They don't have a website. How dare they not have a website? Like,
It's 2019. What's wrong with you?
so yeah, I mean, some more like local things, yeah, you're not gonna know about it. You can't plan unless you just happen upon them.
Yeah. So that was a really cool experience. So I mean, it's good to have an itinerary, but you kind of On the flip side, if you're open to some randomness, I mean, it can always work out.
It can lead to just things that you might not have been able to experience, or talking to people, because if you don't have a plan, then maybe you have to ask somebody like, hey, what's good around here?
Yeah.
Or where can I go? Which we've done that too.
When we speak the same language.
Well, that, of course. So, I mean, that could be a con, you know, or just like be aware, like, okay, well, if you're going somewhere and you don't speak the same language, well, yeah, maybe that's not going to be possible.
Yeah, you might have to, maybe an itinerary.
Hand signs.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of an itinerary is better if you know that you're not
Just
going
to
to be able to
help
ask
guide you,
someone.
yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, go ahead.
Well, of course, and that depends. Are you introverted or extroverted? Do you even want to talk to people?
Generally, I don't. I think so. Maybe I don't. If I have enough alcohol in me, I think I'm an extroverted person.
We've kind of. I mean, and that's one thing. Like traveling has actually opened us up a little bit more.
Yeah.
To talking to new people and not being afraid, really, of just meeting new people and letting them lead the way.
Yeah. And then the other thing is kind of moving around. Like if you have an itinerary, it doesn't necessarily have to be minute to minute. You can just kind of do area, and like that kind of helps you when you're planning like on the efficiency of stuff, right?
Right. So, I mean, if you make an itinerary, yeah, you might be able to make the most out of your trip. Especially, you know, maybe you're going across the world or somewhere and you only have a week to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to try to make the most efficient use of your time. And sometimes if you don't have a plan, then you don't really know what the best route is to take from point A to point B to point C or whatever. And you don't know, like, am I supposed to take a train? Am I supposed to take a taxi? Or is it walkable? Or is it, like, on the other side of town? And then I'm traveling back and forth, and it's just a mess. And so sometimes it's important to plan because, yeah, you can also figure out, how am I going to get there?
Or if you're going to make a day of it or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I can't just off the top of my head say, oh, we're going to go to Paris and I'm going to see the Eiffel Tower and then the Louvre. I have no idea how far apart those things
That's
are.
true.
Yeah, like we need to kind of figure that out ahead of time and make a plan
so
for it.
it helps. Otherwise, I mean, at the same time, on the flip side, you know, without a plan, well, yeah, you just kind of do whatever happens to be around there, and it might be cool. So it just depends. I mean, do you have your heart set on seeing certain things?
Mm-hmm.
Then, yeah, maybe make a plan so you can make the most efficient use of your time, or you just want to, like, see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that can be like a con to a plan if you have, so like say you have the plan and you have like A, B, C planned out, but something comes up in between like B and C, right? So you're headed to B, something comes up and you can't do it. Well, then now you have to kind of like nix that and then you go straight to C. Well, that's if you have a plan. You want to make sure you're maintaining the rest of the plan throughout the day. Well, there was this one time we went to Denver and we didn't have a plan at all.
This one time at band camp?
This one time? This one time at band camp?
You like said it like that.
Well, I mean,
there was this one time we went to Denver.
Well, it's true.
Okay.
So, like, for sure. Anyway, so we went to Denver and we didn't have a plan at all. Like, it was just like the whole thing was like, I'm gonna say yes to everything. We're gonna say yes to everything. So Christy was like, well, let's go to Pikes Peak. And I was like, I've never heard of Pikes Peak. She's like, yeah, let's look at the map. Oh, okay, it's like an hour and a half drive from here to where we got to go to get the train.
But it's a mountain.
But it's a mountain. I want to see it. So, okay. So we get on the highway. We start driving. And then there's like crazy accidents on the highway. And I don't know why I'm used to Texas. You have like 4-lane highways everywhere in Texas. But over there, it was like maybe a 2-lane highway or a 3-lane highway or something like that. And so fortunately for us, we didn't have anything planned after the Pikes Peak thing. So it was like, okay, we don't have to worry about, oh, no, we're just going to nix it, turn around and go back. Because if we go all the way there, we're not going to have time to do these other things we have planned today. Like
Right.
that was it. Because we're just making things up as we went along.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, well, we'll take this exit and take the scenic route. And it was freaking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we ended up like sort of in the. I mean, honestly, I don't even know what it was.
It's like a
the area, but
countryside,
it seemed like the countryside of Denver or something. And it was really cool. I mean, it was just a different sort of landscape than what we've seen before.
Yeah, like a 2-hour drive became like a 4.5-hour drive.
It was a long drive.
It was really long. And then it only took like an hour to get back or
Yeah.
something weird like that. But I mean, I don't regret taking that
No.
scenic route. And we probably wouldn't have done that if we had the whole day planned out. Because, like, oh man, we can't do it because we have like these dinner reservations wherever later or something like that. So sometimes like that spontaneity can really help you like, yeah, experience things that you wouldn't have expected before. But at the same time, if you're very limited on time in a place and you know that there are things you need to knock out while you're there, well then, yeah, you gotta plan
Yeah.
it. It's
Well,
just give or take.
like you said, with the scenic route, okay, we're like, we don't feel like we need to get back, so it's okay, let's go do it.
Right.
But again, going back to Tokyo, and I guess we kind of go back to Tokyo a lot because we were, I guess, inexperienced travels at that time, or travelers,
Yeah.
And so we really found out a lot of these things there in Tokyo. Like, we were at Mount Fuji.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
So
okay.
we were, and it's kind of like the Denver situation, which is why I wanted to explain it. Was so, like, in Denver, in the case of going to that mountain, we're like, yes, let's go. We don't have anything to do. But when we were at Mount Fuji, there was like a bazillion steps you had to climb to go to the top. But we, at that point, had to catch a train. I mean, we had to catch this train at a certain time because we already had the tickets. And we had to be back in Tokyo by that time. And so we got, like, I don't know, maybe a third of the way up.
Maybe, yeah.
And then we're like, we have to turn around because we kept looking at the time, the watch. And so that was kind of like ruining the experience because the whole time you're there, you're like, oh, it's beautiful. What time is it? Oh my God, look at that. What time is it? And like, and so, yeah.
Bad.
And it's like, oh man, like, oh, I bet it's awesome at the top, but we have to go back.
I think I was like so concerned about the timing. I actually didn't even try to go up the steps any further with Christy. I was like, I'm going to stop here by this food truck and get something to eat. You can keep walking. Because I knew that if I kept going with her, like, we might get stuck in this like tunnel, like this tunnel vision of, oh, we got to get to the top. We got to get to the top. And
or,
we have
I mean,
stuff to
because
do,
it was
and
so
it's like,
beautiful that you just wanted to keep going, but we couldn't. I mean, so that was a bummer. It really was. It's somewhere that I really want to go back and not have that time constraint. Yeah. Because we missed out on that because of an itinerary and a plan that we couldn't break. We couldn't break it. Yeah. We had to go back and we didn't get to the top.
Yeah, like if it was something more like, okay, we're gonna go to this train station in this area and then figure it out from there, like then maybe we would have made it to the top and not had like that restriction or that restraint on us to make it back by a certain time. But that's kind of the pros and cons on it. But like I said, there are things that spontaneity can have its own cons as well, right? Sometimes you romanticize it. And the other thing is it can be expensive. That Denver trip.
I mean, it was fun. Don't get us wrong. It was fun. Yeah. Because we kind of went into it. Okay, we have no plan. We just randomly decided last night to come. So we're just going to say yes. And if we see something somewhere we want to do it, we're just going to do it. And, we're not going to let anything stop us, not even cost. And yeah, it was a lot of fun, but it was also very expensive.
I think we spent like $1,600.
No way. In 2 days?
Yeah, it was like a 2 or 3 day trip, including the flights. I think we spent like $1,600 or almost $2,000, but we did so much. We went to like the Denver Science Museum. We went to the Coors Brewery. We went to Pikes Peak. We saw a comedy show.
We ate a bunch of good food.
We had like this giant sushi boat thing that we ate. What else did we do? We went to like that Denver, that mile place. What's it called?
It's kind of like the mall.
The mall mile or something like that. I don't know. It was really cool. Like there was just so much fun. Oh, we went to the Red Rocks, the amphitheater.
Yeah, I mean, that was free.
Like it was like in 3 days.
Yeah, but somehow, I mean, and what's crazy is like even without an itinerary, we actually did a lot.
Yeah, we did because we also committed to just being nonstop while we were there. Like,
that's true.
Because it was such a spur of the moment thing. Like, I literally got home from work and told Christy, I don't want to go to work tomorrow. And we just bought tickets and left.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was spontaneous from the very start.
Yeah. I think where I'm lucky with that, though, is like sometimes I get like an itch to be spontaneous with something. And then so Christy is always down to do whatever. And then when we get somewhere, like we just kind of compromise on stuff and figure it out together. And so that's actually like another thing,
But so if you have an itinerary, though, you can budget, so you can have more control of the cost. So that's kind of the pro to having an itinerary, at least, is if you can say, I only want to spend this amount of money. So these are the things we can afford to do, or this is where we can afford to go eat or whatever.
You can plan ahead for how much you're going to be spending. That's definitely true.
But I think either way, and maybe a little bit more with the no plan sort of thing, you always end up with like a story to tell. Yeah. Like you come home with stories because this happened. Even if you have an itinerary, but you just like are willing to change it.
Yeah, you meet like interesting people sometimes. Like we had this one Airbnb experience scheduled in Edinburgh, and the host for the Airbnb experience, he was just this wild, crazy comedian, and it was like it turned like a 1 hour experience turned into like the entire night,
The entire day and the night.
It was wild, but it was
really cool.
It was a really cool time.
And I mean,
We really
and
had
so
that.
yeah, that's why you compromise. And so that's what we've learned is like not really. We don't say like, oh, we only do itineraries or we don't do this. I mean, it depends on what
Depends
we're
on
doing.
a lot of that different stuff. Yeah, and you gotta be aware of that. Like, yeah, it just depends, man. Like,
I think,
where you're
but if you
going,
make
how
a
much
plan,
money you have. You know.
Yeah, if you make a plan, just be flexible though.
Yeah.
So just like have that mentality. Like, yes, I'm gonna make a plan because there are things that I want to see. But hey, maybe I meet a local person or random person. They're like, you got to do this. Maybe just be open to it and be like, okay, that means I'm gonna not follow through with my plan, but I might have this cool experience because I just go with it.
Yeah.
So.
And sometimes too, like you'll have to keep in mind if you're with someone, like with a partner, like be a little flexible. Maybe you had this big old plan that you put together and you put in all this time, but if you see that person's like dragging themselves to keep up with you, maybe a little more flexible and like, okay, we can cut this short a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it helps if you are making an itinerary and you're traveling with somebody else. Maybe you both work on the itinerary together.
That's what we've started doing.
Yeah, and so now the itinerary is made up of things that you both want to do and the times and all that, and doesn't feel so one-sided.
Yeah. Now that, like, circling back, like that's kind of our bias at this point though. Like we prefer having the plans, but it's not always the case. And I think that's a good way to lead us into
Tip of the day.
So Christy can explain the tip of the day because she is like our itinerary master. So she'll give you a tip on something that she likes or she's trying to do more often now, right?
Right. So, I mean, I think still my preference, like I said, is having an itinerary just so I feel like I have an idea. But if you do want to have some spontaneous time in there, maybe you schedule like spontaneous time. So you say like, this day, we're not going to have a plan. We're just going to go into town and walk around. Or if you feel like you're not ready to have a full spontaneous day, then maybe it's just the afternoon in this area of town. You're like, oh man, I really wanted to go to this side of town, but we're just gonna go and check it out and walk around and see what it is.
Yeah, I think that works out really well too. Though sometimes like you can just be walking around, even if you can't visually find anything. Like then at that point, okay, maybe you're busting out your phone using a Google map looking for a point of interest or something. But for the most part, yeah, if you go to an area and you just kind of meander about, you'll find something. Like we came across sumo wrestlers one time just walking around Roppongi. I was like, oh my God, there's sumo wrestlers. And we're like in the subway. I was like, can I get a picture for you guys? This is awesome. Always wanted to be a sumo wrestler.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
So, I mean, I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way to travel or to plan or not to plan. It just depends, your own style. These are just things that we've kind of learned over time. If you guys have any of your own tips or suggestions,
share them.
Let us know.
Yeah.
I mean, we're open to new ideas and we'd love to hear your thoughts. Maybe just even your own stories or experiences with travel. That'd be really fun too.
Yeah, so we've been having a great time doing these podcasts so far. This is episode number 4, I think. Number 4. But if you enjoy it, again, subscribe on YouTube or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, wherever you're listening. Leave a like, leave a review. We would greatly appreciate it. And until then, we will see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.